wanted to in the time frame that you wanted to. Partly of the reason why this might happen is because there are 3 key questions that I think you need to ask yourself and make sure you have an answer of yes to in order to set yourself up to finish this year. And so on this episode from ABD to PhD show, we are going to talk about the 3 questions that you're going to need to ask yourself that will help you know if you're ready to make the progress on your dissertation that you need. In essence, and most importantly, a focus on, are you willing to make these key sacrifices to finishing your dissertation this year? So I want to say thank you so much for tuning in. My name is Dr. Ramon Goings. I'm founder of Done Dissertation. And at Done Dissertation, our goal is to help demystify the dissertation process so that you, the doctoral student, can write and defend your dissertation in 1 year or less. Today's episode of From ABD to PhD show is sponsored by the Done Dissertation Velocity Coaching Program. The goal of our program is to help you write and defend your dissertation in the next year. So if you've been trying to figure it out, but know you need a system, know you need a structure to finish, I would invite you to apply to work with us and learn more about our program. You can complete our consultation form at www.velocitydissertation.com, or you can scan a QR code that is there on your screen. It will take you right to the application so that you can learn more about our program and schedule time to talk with our team. So on this episode, I got to talk about these sacrifices. And I'm sorry, real quick, before we get into the content, I want to make sure and give a shout out to our other partner, HBCU Smart TV. They do stream our episodes on their platform. And so if you want to learn more about HBCU Smart TV, you can go to www.hbcusmarttv.com, or you can download the HBCU Smart TV app on your Roku device. And so now, as we get into today's content, because I think it's really important and something we have to talk more about, is around sacrificing to finish our dissertations. And when we were thinking about this and putting this this episode together, we came to the conclusion as a team that there are 3 essential questions that you have to ask yourself. And the answer needs to be yes if you're looking to finish your dissertation this year. And this is especially important if you haven't had the progress that you wanted to on this document quite yet. And so first things first, we know that, right, anything great and worth having is worth some sacrifice to get it. And if you're losing the steam with your dissertation, what I'm going to share with you, these questions are going to be really important for you to consider. So number 1, this question you want to ask yourself: are you willing to give up time to finish your dissertation? Again, are you willing to give up time to finish your dissertation? Remember that when you're trying to create this new knowledge, right, you're going through this process and your brain is hurting, all this stuff, you're generating new knowledge that didn't exist before you went to this project. Like, this is a lot of work. Like, you all are doing work that is most people don't do. This is why not everybody has a doctorate, right? And so this is a lot of work. But it becomes more imperative that if you're trying to finish, you got to have the mental space necessary to grow as a scholar, to develop, to even just sit there and do all the reading and writing that's just required of the process, right? And so there's nothing that your faculty member can do to take away from you doing the work. Like, your job, you have to do the work, and that's the hard part of this thing. And trust me, everybody, if this was very easy, everybody would get a doctorate. But there are some sacrifices, and I think time is the biggest sacrifice you will need to make during this process. So are you willing to give up things that you're doing currently that are holding you back from finishing? And so just to give an example from my own doctoral journey, right? One of the things when I was a doctoral student, I used to love to do was, at the time I was like, on Sundays, I would watch football. And what I noticed is that was one of the days I could get a lot of writing done, because back then I was a teacher. So, K through 12, you're teaching every day. So I would do a little writing during the week, and then I would have my Saturdays and Sundays to engage and write. And so Sunday was a great open day. And I would spend the day watching football. And that was like, 7, 8 hours that I could have been sitting writing, or I was trying to watch while I was writing and being distracted, right? And so it came to a point where I just had to stop watching and dedicate the time and get that time back to focus on my writing to get out of my doctoral program. For some of our clients, we've had clients who have, one in particular, their story stands out, is that they were the leader of their church choir. And so I remember one day they came to us during our office hour call and said, "Oh yeah, Dr. Goins, I went to church and I told them, look, I'm about to step down as the director. I need about 6 to 8 months so I can just finish my dissertation. And as soon as I'm done, I'll come back and take over the role. And so for that particular client, that was something they needed to do. They had to let go of that responsibility. What I want you to start doing and considering is taking stock of what things are you doing right now that is taking up your time. Are you doing too much at work? So, I'm all for folks being, top notch at work, but sometimes we're doing and going above and beyond what we get paid to do, where, you're spending a lot more time than what you're being compensated for. So maybe instead of staying 2 hours late to work on something, maybe stay 1 hour and get that hour back. Something, just those simple tweaks and changes is all you need. So I'm not even saying to do something drastic, right? Just look at your time. What are you spending your time on? Because what you're spending your time on tells you what your priority is. And so you find that you're spending time on everything and everyone else, but not your dissertation. That should let you know that your dissertation is not the main priority. So if you're looking to finish in the next year, you have to be willing to say yes, that you are willing to sacrifice your time. So if you ask yourself, am I willing to sacrifice time? The answer has to be yes automatically. And I will figure out what it needs to be, what aspects of my life can I sacrifice in order to finish this process? Because I want y'all to finish. Like, there's an end date to this thing. So the quicker you get to the end date, the quicker you can go back to all the other things that you want to do in your life. But just trust and believe that if you don't do the work, that end date will never come. And the end date is truly attributed to how fast or slow you're willing to move through this process. And of course, there's other people involved, so I'm considering that as well. But you first have the initial work that has to get done. And so just being mindful of our time is really important. So that's the first question I want you to ask yourself. Am I willing to sacrifice and give up time? So now, the second question that you want to ask yourself if you're trying to finish your dissertation within the next year is that not only are you willing to give up time, are you willing to give up responsibilities? Because a lot of us got a lot of stuff going on, and we gotta figure out a way to do something different. For some of us, for some of you all, you may say you're in all these opportunities to publish, do all these extracurricular activities and things, but sometimes you just have to be selfish and sacrifice those opportunities and extracurriculars for yourself. One thing I'll give an example of, I remember, and this was during my master's program, I had a stats class I was taking, and at the time, my cousin was getting married in Mexico, and we're in Mexico having a great time, and his bachelor party is on this one particular night, and I had a test that I needed to take for the stats class that was also that same night, and so I had options, right? I could have not taken the test and just say, you know what? This is my cousin's getting married. I got to go to the bachelor party. Or I could take this test knowing that it will set me up for success later. And literally what I did, I was the only person left at our house. I'm sitting in there taking a stats test while everyone is having the time of their lives at my cousin's bachelor party. That was a sacrifice, right? And so you have to figure out what those extracurricular sacrifices are that will get you to the finish line. This looks different for each and every one of you, but you have to be willing to ask yourself, am I willing to sacrifice and give up extracurricular activities for this duration? For a lot of us, the answer is oftentimes no, because we are more comfortable doing everything we've been doing. But trust me, the vacations will be there. All those things, right? Cabo will be there. It's not going nowhere, right? So you may have to sacrifice that in order to do the writing, or bring your laptop and do writing while you're there and vacation. Like, you got to figure out what you're willing to sacrifice, but something's going to have to give in order to get this process done. And so that's the second question I want you to ask yourself. Now, for those who are just tuning in again on this episode from ABD to PhD show, we are discussing the questions that you have to be willing to ask yourself if you're trying to get your dissertation done this year. And these questions are all about sacrifices. And for those of you who are watching on YouTube, if you could do me a favor real quick, hit the like and subscribe button. The subscribe and notification bell, just so that you have access to when new content comes out, because YouTube is where we will house all of our content. And if you're on our LinkedIn or Facebook pages, make sure to give us a like so that you know when our next live stream is on the page. And so lastly, when we think about the last question that we're going to have to ask ourselves if we're trying to finish our dissertation this year is, are you willing to lean in on your support system? The dissertation is a team sport. You have to have a support system. Whether it could be friends, it could be family, it could be your community, your church community, your fraternity, sorority community, whatever it is, it's especially important that you have to have the support system in place. So if you don't have the support system, you got to put it in place and get some people to help you now, because it's really hard to go and navigate this process alone when we don't have people, not necessarily to bounce off the scholarly ideas off of, right? So you got maybe have a community to do that, but just like life stuff, it becomes really important. It can become a distraction if you don't have these things in place. And for my audience, knowing who you are, right? You are the person who is a leader. You are the person who people come to for answers. And when you're in that type of position, oftentimes what you spend a lot of your time doing is helping everyone else, and then really not being willing to ask help for yourself because you just are afraid to ask for help and just don't want to seem weak asking for help. We had that on an episode from ABD to PhD show. I interviewed one of our now alum, Dr. Webb, and he talked about that idea. I just didn't ask for help fast enough. And so this is really important to think about, because you want to do it all yourself. I don't blame you. I get it. But we can't go through this process trying to do it all ourselves. You're going to need help. Hey, I needed help. I needed help from my wife when I was going through this process. Like, look, Renee, I need, even in our case, we had to make a sacrifice of income, right? I said we saw opportunity where I can make a transition from K through 12 to higher ed, but we knew that it was going to be a significant pay cut to make this, employment move. But with the employment move, I knew I could finish my doctorate for basically free, just about, and it would allow me to finish faster because I would have the bandwidth and the time to do the writing. And so sometimes it's about your support system having these conversations. So for some of our clients, what they do if they have children, they might say, talk to their spouse or partner and say, hey, can you pick up the load with the kids on these days so that I can go to do writing? Some of our clients, I remember one of our clients said, oh yeah, I go to the library every day, but my wife will take over with the little one while I'm doing the writing. And so these things are really important to have and understand. Where is your support system coming from? You got to figure it out. And so our hope is that even if you don't know what your support system is quite yet, make sure and think through this. This is why in the book, 14 Secrets to a Done Dissertation, excuse me, I'm going to pull the book out, is that I talk a lot about this in one of the chapters on building out your support system and building out what we call your done dissertation team. This is really important, and especially in chapter 5, because we talk about this idea of dissertation intoxication, where you become so consumed with the process that you'll sacrifice other responsibilities in life. And so this is when having a team is really important. And if you're someone that wants to learn more about this particular book and get access to it and purchase your copy, signed copy, you can go here on the screen. You can scan this QR code, or you can go to our website, www.thedonedissertation.com, to get access to the book. And again, this is really important, and why I spent time in the book talking about it, because you all are making you all have to make a lot of sacrifices to finish, and you sometimes need to rely on other people to make those sacrifices. So it's important to have those conversations early and often so that you can just make the forward momentum. If you just stay stuck figuring out and trying to figure it out on your own, that will not be of service to you. And what you will do is just stay stuck, stay stagnant, and then this time next year you'll still be watching the show, and this is like, man, I should have took advantage of that. And that's something we hear from a lot of our clients when they off-board with us, when they finish their doctorate. They're like, oh my God, I should have done this so much sooner. You'd be surprised about how many students that we have worked with who have waited 1 to 2 years to reach out, or 1 to 2 years saying, oh, I'll do it myself. I'm not going to, invest and sacrifice any money in order to, get that support I need to finish my dissertation. And I just always want to say, what is that time costing you? And it's definitely costing you something monetarily, for sure, because that's time wasting an opportunity, and also time wasting intuition. All these things matter. And so as we wrap up, I want to just summarize the 3 questions that you want to ask yourself, and make sure that you're willing to say yes to these questions. Are you willing to give up time to finish your dissertation? Are you willing to temporarily give up extracurricular activities? And are you willing to lean on your support system? These 3 questions are really important to have yes answers to, and to build out the support that you need to get this thing done. And one other question I want you to ask yourself, if you've been on the borderline of like, oh, I'm interested in work with done dissertation, I'm not quite sure, is thinking through, are you willing to make a sacrifice in terms of not only your time, but also potentially monetary resource to get the help that you need? Remember, we got to start thinking about not only the money we're putting out, but the return on our investment. This is what we tell our folks, and our folks continuously tell us, like, oh my God, I thought I was just paying you all, but really I was investing in myself. And I would just say the biggest investment I can give is in myself more than anything else. Because I know at the end of the day, I have control over how I use that investment, and then how I get the return on my investment. And this is something that we help our students do all the time, because we not only want to help you finish, but we're trying to give you all the strategy and insight to set yourself up for success after this is done through our professional development and other aspects of our program. Like, we have a truly comprehensive program that gets students done and to the finish line. And all you have to do is be willing to make those sacrifices in order to get to that part of the process. And so if you're someone that is interested in getting the help that you need to finish your dissertation this year, you're willing to put the time, you're willing to put in the energy, and you're willing to put in your resources to finish your dissertation, then I would invite you to apply to work with us. You can go to www.velocitydissertation.com to learn more about our program, or you can scan the QR code that is here on your screen. And for those of my folks who might not be quite right at the dissertation phase yet, we have something for you as well. We do have a training called Elevate Your Academic Writing. It is for the goal to help you to really develop a writing process that will get you through this dissertation journey. And so if you're interested in learning more about that, you can scan the QR code that is here on your screen, or you can go to www.thedonedissertation.com/elevate. The link is here on your screen, as well as you can scan the QR code. So again, we got things for each of you all who are going through this process. But again, don't let your pride get in the way of getting the help that you need. We have a proven process. We have a system that works. It only takes you now to go out and actually get the support that you need to get to the finish line. And so with that said, I want to thank you all so much for watching this episode of From ABD to PhD Show. I'm your host, Dr. Ramon Goings, founder of Done Dissertation, where we demystify the dissertation process so that you, the doctoral student, can write and defend your dissertation in 1 year or less. Until next time, I want you all to please use this insight, use this information. And if you're watching this on YouTube, hit the subscribe button and notification bell so you know when new episodes are coming out, and share this with 2 or 3 people that you think that can find value out of this conversation. And until next time, I hope you all have a great week.